So, like I mentioned in Keyshot, right? If you go to environment and make sure you're under environment, you're at settings and go to background and look for backplate image, you can load the render you're trying to copy, and that will help you set up the right angle and the right view. You can then, like here, by toggling your model on and off, you can see whether the lighting works. It's a very quick and simple way to align your render to your view, okay? Now, obviously, when you go to render it, just make sure that you change this back to a backplate color before you hit render on that. As I'll answer in a second, sorry. As I was mentioning, though, this is not helpful if you need to change your model size. So you can do the same thing in SolidWorks. Just like I showed you with, one way to do that was to do it as a sketch, but the problem is the sketch will move as you rotate the body. So the way to do it in SolidWorks is you want to look at the top here, you want to go to this beach ball, and you want to go to background color, right-click on this and say Edit Scene. And here for background, you want to change this from color to image. And here you can click on Browse and do the exact same thing. You can find your image. And now it's in the back of your SolidWorks. And now as you move this around, your image stays there. So this is the way that you can then align it in SolidWorks, get the proportions close, change the dimensions how you want it, and then do the exact same thing in Keyshot. The thing that I want to mention to make it clear, last time I mentioned that my dimensions don't matter, but then I mentioned suggesting 0.02 as a gap. That number came from the day that we were looking at part lines. I had calipers, I measured 0.02 as a ½ millimeter, that seems to be typical. That said, more important than using that number is getting it to look right. So as you work on your file, if 0.02 doesn't make sense, you do not need to use it. Just do whatever gets you in the right direction with your file looking right. That said, I sincerely hope I don't get a toaster that's like 4 foot wide by 8 feet tall. Just trying to avoid those kinds of mistakes. But as long as you're close, all that matters is judging it by eye. Any questions on? Yes, I believe you can select the colors from the picture. I need to double check this. So let me apply a general material to this object. I believe if I double click on this and click on this, I can click on this eyedropper here. So that's how you do it. You double click this window here, you look for the eyedropper, you target part of your picture, and it should get you something close. As far as adding the swatches, I don't know. My best guess is if you click on this and drag it down and let go, it should appear. So now let's try a different object. We'll add a sphere here. We'll move it off to the side. And now I believe if I double click on this, if I click on this, yep, the swatch appears to still be there. So did you try that? Were you able to drag from here down into it? You did not try that, or you were not able to do it? Okay. That, I don't know what that does. It saves color to library. I don't know what that does. For what it's worth, I'm sure you can, I think you can drag it over other swatches too and write over them. Yeah, that was a good question, Medea. Are there any other, and Armando, are there any other questions? Sorry, I know we're gonna go right up to 40 today. If you wanna apply a light to material, there is lights here as preset materials, but you can also double click on the objects, and under diffuse here, if you go to emissive, there's two options that I tend to use. I use area light and emissive. Though things to be aware of, so for like Jocelyn, for your lamp, you would probably have a sphere in there, and you can see it's emitting light onto the object here. For all of you that have lights, just the settings to be aware of, if you have like a light up ring or part of a button that lights up, I would recommend that you play with these preset settings. If you have a light that's hidden by something, so like it's inside of the lampshade, or I know Angelica, you might pick one where the light is cast on the ground, just apply it to a dummy body like this, and just, if you check this box visible to camera, It will hide the object, but you can see it's still casting the light. You can play with the settings here. This is how powerful you make the light. It defaults to 1,000. If you want it to be a bit softer, you can set it to be like 100 or something lower. You should be able to change the color of the light by changing this. So it goes from gray to yellow, so if you need to mess with that. That should get you pretty close. Homework for Monday is to have your renders, okay? If they don't need to be printed out, what I do want though is I want a very rough PDF from you. I'm going to show you this previous example. Now again, Monday it's not graded. Monday's a check-in. It's a chance to get feedback before it's actually due. So you can still make changes. If you encounter a problem like lighting or something we didn't cover, I think that's what I'll use Wednesday's class for. I need to double check Wednesday's class. But it should be an opportunity to like correct some of those, or maybe we can address them and use part of Monday's class for that. I know we're right up on time here. I just want to show what I'm expecting on Monday. So if I open the finals, I've been using Anastasia's. Again, eventually you need a PDF for this. All I want for Monday, I want this view. So I want you to have your render next to the copy, okay? However, I'm going to request that you do not label which is the copy and which is the render. And as a class, we're going to try and see, is it obvious, is it not obvious? The goal is that the whole class looks up and we can't tell which one you did and which one they did, okay? The better goal is that we pick yours as the render because we think it looks better. Does that make sense? The next thing I want in your PDF is it's a 2-page PDF. This is page 1. Page 2, just your sketches. If you're super crunched for time, snap a photo with your phone, drop it in as a JPEG. The reason I want your sketches in there, I want the class to give you design feedback on where you want to take this, like the changes you're thinking of making, how you might do it in SOLIDWORKS. Those are the kind of conversations I'm hoping to have Monday. Depending on time, if like there's a question like all of you don't know how to do lights, I can take time to do a keyshot light demo. Stuff like that. Sound like a plan? Have those PDFs uploaded to Box just by class by 1 p.m. Ideally by noon, aim for noon, because that way I can download it to my computer and be ready to look at it. And TJ, don't forget show and tell Monday.